policymakers, 2 members voted against the rate cut, while a couple pushed for a bigger 50 basis point reduction.
We get a fresh reading on U.S. manufacturing ahead of Chairman Powell's speech with a preliminary purchasing managers index for August due out at 9:45 a.m. Wall Street time. Bloomberg's Vinny Daljudice reports.
Factories are navigating a slowdown in global growth as well as the uncertainty of White House trade policy. Economists say this month's market manufacturing PMI will probably hover just above 50, the dividing line between growth and contraction. A factory index compiled by the Institute for Supply Management has also been flirting with contraction. In July, the ISM index registered the lowest reading since August 2016. Vinny Daljudice, Bloomberg Daybreak.
All right, Vinny, thanks. Now we have somewhat encouraging PMI data out of Europe. Activity in the euro area's private sector unexpectedly picked up this month, though a meaningful rebound remains out of sight. Market's composite PMI rose to 51.8, indicating a slightly stronger expansion than in July. The outlook for Germany, though, remains bleak, with orders falling the most in more than 6 years.
Sentiment at the European Central Bank is also in focus today, with the ECB publishing an account of its latest policy meeting at 7:30 a.m. Wall Street time. Bloomberg's Ewan Potts joins us live from London with the details. Good morning, Ewan.
Good morning, Karen and Nathan. How far will the ECB go in boosting the euro area economy next month? Investors will be asking that as they await today's account of the previous meeting. Now, Bloomberg Economics predicts a cut to the deposit rate next month, and President Mario Draghi has already signalled asset purchases will start again, but the size of that easing is still unknown. Meanwhile, July's euro area inflation was revised down to 1%, and that's adding to pressure for more stimulus. Live in London, I'm Ewan Potts, Bloomberg Daybreak.
All right, Ewan, thanks. Stocks and bonds in Italy are outperforming their peers after President Sergio Mattarella set a deadline to choose a new prime minister. Italy's president told the PD and five-star parties to propose a new premier by Monday or face fresh elections. Wolfengo Piccoli is director of research at Teneo Intelligence.
We have 2 scenarios in front of us at the end of the day: an early election before the end of the year, which I think should be still base case, or the alternative, a government 5-star PD plus others with an agenda to postpone the election until the spring of next year. I don't think they can go further than that.
Only President Mattarella has the power to nominate a new leader, and we're told he wants a quick resolution.
As global Wall Street awaits remarks from Jerome Powell, trading remains light, and that was the case overnight with stocks in Asia posting modest losses. Bloomberg's Juliet Sally joins us from Singapore with the details. Good morning, Juliet.
Good morning, Karen. The Nikkei 225 closed virtually unchanged as the yen strengthened against the dollar. Stocks in Hong Kong were weaker, with equities poised for their worst quarter since 2015. Shares in the city have lost more than $600 billion in value since June as protests continue. Australian stocks rebounded after yesterday's slump. Qantas shares rose to the highest level since January after the airline announced an off-market share buyback and a higher dividend. In Singapore, I'm Juliet Sali, Bloomberg Daybreak.
Juliet, thanks. We have a surprise central bank decision out of Indonesia. Policymakers there reduced interest rates for a second straight month, cutting the reverse repo rate by 25 basis points. The majority of economists surveyed by Bloomberg had expected no change.
S&P NASDAQ futures down 20, and straight ahead, we have the latest world and national news. And this is Bloomberg.
Okay, Karen, thank you. It is 5:07 on Wall Street, and Michael Barr is here with more on what's going on around the world. Good morning, Michael.
Good morning, Nathan. President Trump says he was insulted by the response he received from the Dutch Prime Minister when he proposed buying Greenland from them. She called it absurd, and he called her nasty.
I thought it was a very not nice way of saying something. They could have told me no.
The president canceled his planned state visit to the longtime European ally. Trump says Denmark Prime Minister Mette Frederiksen is not talking to me. She's talking to the United States of America. You don't talk to the U.S. that way, at least under me. President Trump's support for new tax cuts lasted one day. Bloomberg's Martin DeCarroll reports.
After days of contradictory messages, the economy is doing great, the economy needs more stimulus, President Trump now says he's abandoning the idea of cutting the payroll tax.
We don't need it. We have a strong economy.
He's also giving up on indexing the capital gains tax to inflation.
I've looked at indexing for a long time. It's not something I love. I think it's probably better for the high-income people.
Trump again deflected criticism that his trade war with China is slowing down growth, instead blaming the Fed for the gathering clouds. In Washington, Martin DeCarroll, Bloomberg Daybreak.
Two people close to Washington Governor Jay Inslee have told the Associated Press that he intends to seek a third term as governor. The news comes after Inslee announced the end of his presidential campaign last night. Senator Cory Booker believes he is the best candidate on climate in the race for the White House now that Inslee has dropped out. The New Jersey senator spoke about Inslee after a campaign event in Los Angeles last night.
He is a guy that really did a good job. I'm really happy that Greenpeace ranked him the number one candidate weeks ago, the number one candidate on climate, and me the number two.
President Trump is taking a swipe at automobile manufacturers who've pushed back on his administration's plan to weaken fuel efficiency requirements, dismissing them as politically correct. In a tweet, Trump says his proposal would lower the average price of a car to consumers by more than $3,000. He went on to say, foolish executives. Global news 24 hours a day on air and at TikTok on Twitter. Powered by more than 2,700 journalists and analysts in more than 120 countries. I'm Michael Barr. This is Bloomberg, Nathan.
All right, Michael, thank you. It's 5:09 on Wall Street, and it's now time for the Bloomberg NBC Sports Update. Good morning, Rob Bushka.
Good morning, Nathan. For the second time in as many games, the Yankees wrap out double-digit base hits, out-hitting Oakland only to lose to the A's. Chris Davis and Marcus Semien each hit two-run homers to back Mike Fiers as the A's beat the Yankees 6-4 for their third straight loss on Wednesday. Fiers an impressive 12-3 as the long ball continues to haunt Jay Happ. He gave up 5 runs. He was chased after just 4 innings. Yankees also lost the best record in baseball by virtue of the Dodgers' 11th walk-off win of the year. They beat Toronto. Yankees look to avoid the sweep when they hand the ball to Masahiro Tanaka tonight at 6:30 opposite Tanner Roark. Yankees lead the East by 9 over the Rays, who beat the Mariners. Mets, they win again with an exciting comeback in walk-off fashion at Citi Field.
3-2 again, the pitch. Davis hammers it toward the left field wall. That's going to get down. Base hit, and one hops the fence to left. Conforto scores, and would you believe it? The Mets do it again. They score twice in the bottom of the 10th, and it's J.D. Davis.
Mets radio 4-3 in 10 over Cleveland, their 4th win in a row. That's the longest current winning streak in the big leagues. Marcus Stroman kept New York in it, allowing just 1 run in 4 innings of work. 6 pitchers in all combined for the win. The Mets are a game and a half out of the wild card, and they'll go for the sweep tonight with Noah Syndergaard climbing the hill. NFL preseason week 3 kicks off as the 2-0 Giants visit Cincinnati. Giants fans excited to see more of rookie quarterback Daniel Jones. Elsewhere in the NFC East, the Redskins visit the Falcons while the Eagles host the Ravens. And that's your NBC Bloomberg Sports Update. Nathan?
All right, Rob, thanks. And the owner of the NBA's Houston Rockets is giving a big boost to one little-known stock. Tillman Fertitta added 1 million shares to his stake of Waiter Holdings yesterday, and that helped the stock rise 34%. Fertitta is a member of the food delivery company's board and purchased the shares between August 16th and 20th. He is now Waiter's biggest shareholder with a stake of 6.5%. You're listening to Bloomberg Daybreak.
Why do hedge funds and other alternative managers rely on Pershing? Mark Alderati, a managing director at BNY Mellon's Pershing and head of Prime Services, explains.
In today's environment of market volatility, Pershing's Prime Services is well positioned to support the needs of hedge funds and other alternative investment managers. Whether it's customized financing or securities lending solutions, platform access, or business expansion, BNY Mellon's Pershing is a prime broker who's committed to this business and agile enough to meet your evolving demands. Pershing helps to solve the needs of clients by advocating for them, providing unwavering strength, deep supply, and award-winning service that is at the core of everything we do. Find out what sets Pershing's prime brokerage team apart.
Learn more about the unique and industry-leading solutions for hedge funds and other alternative managers offered by BNY Mellon's Pershing. Visit our website at Pershing.com. Pershing LLC, member FINRA, NYSE, SIPC.
James, great to see you. It's been too long.
Hi, Janice. It sure has. Is what I heard true? Your company hired a new head of talent management?
Well, not exactly. She's temporary for now, but she's working out great and saving us money.
A temporary head of talent management? I didn't even know that was possible.
Wait, haven't you heard of Sirius?
Should I have?
Yes, Sirius Executives. They allow you to hire qualified, vetted executives on a temporary, part-time, or interim basis.
Wow, I need to make my operations more efficient. I could really use some help.
You should give Sirius a try. Our company had a special project recently, and we hired a temporary COO for just 1 day a week.
This will be perfect for us. How is Sirius spelled?
With a C, C-E-R-I-U-S.
C-E-R-I-U-S. Got it. Janice, you are a lifesaver.
Make the right hire the first time. Cover your company's leadership staffing gap on an interim, temporary, or part-time basis in less than a week. Learn more at SiriusExecutives.com. C-E-R-I-U-S. Executives.com.
Hemorrhoids. You talk to your GP, but you don't really get anywhere. Because the NHS has limited surgery for hemorrhoids, so you go on suffering in silence. Okay, maybe not so silent. It's time to speak to Xroid. They specialise in a new, fast, safe and effective procedure for hemorrhoids with no downtime, and the procedure takes just 30 minutes or less. Don't be one of the 8 million people in the UK suffering in almost silence. Get back to what you love doing. Xroid. Be kind to your behind. For free advice on hemorrhoids, text KIND to 81156.
This is a plug. A plug for the future. Inviting you to join the forward-thinking riders, skaters, and drivers who choose electricity to get around. Charging their bikes, boards, and cars using power from EDF Energy, the UK's largest producer of low-carbon electricity. So, do you like the sound of the electric future? Come and join us. Generation Electric. Everyone's welcome. EDF Energy.
Phew! Currys PC World Mega Deals are hot stuff. You can save up to £150 on Samsung fridge freezers, all with a soothing 5-year guarantee. Starting from just $379 for the RB29. Or upgrade to an American-style model with £150 off the RS8000 and chill in the heat with its water and ice dispenser. A hot mega deal for a cool $999 at Currys PC World.
Stations from Bloomberg Television. Here's Emily Chang.
Joining us to discuss, Chetan Sharma, CEO of Chetan Sharma Consulting, who wrote a report on this topic. So, Chetan, first of all, can you describe to us in layman's terms what is edge computing?
Generally, Amazon, Google, and Microsoft have data centers around the world, and that's where all the applications and the content gets served from. So instead of the centralized cloud system, you have these resources available at the edge or very close to the consumer. And so this edge could be something like the same kind of resources available on a base station near a neighborhood, or it could be some other kind of mini data centers that people are starting to build. And so the idea is instead of a data center which is hundreds or thousands of miles away, it could be only a few miles away.
So who does this give an advantage to, and does it put Amazon, Microsoft, Google at a disadvantage with their cloud businesses?
I think it does put them at a certain disadvantage because the centralized clouds business is pretty straightforward in the sense that you build the data centers and you make it available for the developers. For the edge business, you really need to partner with the players who have real estate assets at the edge, and generally these are the mobile operators or the tower companies or the metro data center providers.
Hear more news like this one on Bloomberg Television, streaming live on Bloomberg.com and on the Bloomberg mobile app, or check your local cable listings. Markets, headlines, and breaking news 24 hours a day at Bloomberg.com, the Bloomberg Business app, and at TikTok on Twitter. This is a Bloomberg Business Flash.
And And I'm Karen Moscow. And U.S. stock index futures are moving lower this morning. Investors awaiting an address by the Federal Reserve Chief tomorrow. Treasuries are steady while gold edges lower. We check the markets every 15 minutes throughout the trading day on Bloomberg. S&P futures are down 5 points. Dow futures down 41. NASDAQ futures down 23. The DAX in Germany's down 0.2%. 10-year Treasury up 5/32, yield 1.57%. The yield on the 2-year 1.55%. NYMEX crude oil up 1/3% or 20 cents at $55.88 a barrel. COMEX gold is down 0.5% or $7.40 to $15.0830 an ounce. The euro 1.1092 against the dollar. The British pound 1.2146 and the yen's at 106.37. Today we get the weekly report on initial jobless claims at 8:30 Wall Street time. The Bloomberg Consumer Comfort Index is out at 945, along with a look at manufacturing, and leading indicators are out at 10. And the Gap and HP are among companies scheduled to report earnings today. That's a Bloomberg Business Flash. Now here's Michael Barr with more on what's going on around the world. Michael, good morning.
Good morning, Karen. President Trump says he was insulted by the response he received from the Dutch Prime Minister when he proposed buying Greenland from them. She called it absurd. Yesterday, the president called her nasty. The president canceled his planned state visit to Denmark. President Trump lashed out at automobile manufacturers who've pushed back on his administration's plan to weaken fuel efficiency requirements, dismissing them as politically correct. He says his plan would lower car prices. In baseball, the Yankees lost to the A's 6-4. The Mets won along with the Orioles and Nationals. The Red Sox and Giants lost. Global news 24 hours a day, on air and at TikTok on Twitter. Powered by more than 2,700 journalists and analysts in more than 120 countries. Michael Barr, this is Bloomberg. Nathan.
Okay, Michael, thank you. It's 5:19 on Wall Street and live from the Bloomberg Interactive Brokers studios. This is Bloomberg Daybreak. We're joined now by Steve Blitz, Chief U.S. Economist at T.S. Lombard. Steve, good morning. As we look ahead to the Jackson Hole Symposium and Chairman Powell's speech, the market's all but pricing in a quarter-point rate cut next month. Will the chairman meet the market's expectations?
Yeah, but I don't really think that's the main point of the exercise. I think that when you read through the minutes, there's you can almost see or read a thread there of how he is going to explain the Fed reaction function going forward. I mean, there's the obvious employment and inflation, but there's also global growth and financial stability. And all four of those were in play in terms of deciding what direction policy should go in next.
So given that, I mean, those are some diverging factors that the chairman will be considering. How do you game this out?
Well, I think it's pretty well set that because the market's 100% basically on 25, they're going to go 25, simply because since the July 31 meeting, trade tensions have worsened. They haven't gotten better, and global growth hasn't really gotten better either. So, and that is, from the Fed's own words, the number one reason for them to have eased, and that has worsened as opposed to gotten better. But it's interesting. They talk about the effective lower bound. They don't no longer call it the zero lower bound. And, is the effective lower bound really something that's a higher number than zero? Because you can only go so far in terms of easing to support global growth before you start bringing in the issue of financial stability, which some participants discussed in the minutes. So it's not it's a very nuanced, and as you said, there's a lot of diverging movements in the economy, domestic and global, and various members of the committee are more focused on one than the other. But I think in the end, it was interesting that at the beginning they said how, well, financial conditions have eased because they priced in all these easings. And then when they go talk about, well, should we go 25, they seem to forget that if they want financial conditions to stay easy, they need to confirm what the markets are priced in the absence of an upturn in data.
Is there anything that the Fed can do with the balance sheet to affect policy?
Yeah, and that was very interesting. At the very beginning, they taught several participants, or a number of participants, or a few participants, said that that given that all the worst thoughts about what would happen with the balance sheet never materialized, they could have been more aggressive. In the coming months, I think that the Fed, holding the assets constant, now needs to keep the liabilities constant, where there's a natural outflow of the liabilities because of reserves leaving the system, and the run-up in Treasury issuance that we're going to get, including the rebuilding of the Treasury's balances at the Fed. All of these things are likely to create a tightening of liquidity, especially in the funding markets. And it wouldn't shock me if in the coming months the Fed became more aggressive in buying assets at the short end of the curve.
In our last minute here, so what's your base case then in terms of the number of rate cuts we could see from the Fed by the end of this year?
Well, I think the Fed underplays the negative impact of an inverted curve on real economic activity. And the slower they go, the more the weight of this negative curve increases on economic activity. And so if they just do 25 in September, they almost guarantee several more 25s down the road. I think that if we get, and I don't know if we will, but if we get a weak, say, sub 100,000 kind of number unemployment in August, I think the door is open for those two guys who were advocating for 50 basis point cut to grow, and I think you could get a 50 basis point cut at the end of the month. And that plus the balance sheet could get them control on the curve and be a positive. Well, they just do 25, same old Fed.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
There'll be 25s and 25s and 25s to come.
All right, Steve Blitz, Chief U.S. Economist, T.S. Lombard. Lot to look forward to as we await Chairman Powell's speech in Jackson Hole tomorrow morning. Stay with us. You are listening to Bloomberg Daybreak.
This is a Bloomberg Market Minute. Stock futures are slipping this morning as traders await remarks by Fed Chair Jay Powell tomorrow. On international trade, President Donald Trump said the U.S. will probably make a deal. Today brings weekly reports on jobless claims and consumer comfort. U.S. stocks closed higher yesterday on the strength of strong earnings from Target and Lowe's. The Dow jumped 240 points to 26,203. The S&P rose 24 or 0.8% to 2924. The Nasdaq jumped 72 to 8,020. The market paired gains as Fed minutes fell short of signaling the central bank was ready to cut rates sharply. But minutes from the July Fed meeting show that policymakers saw the rate cut last month as insurance for growth against the trade war. S&P futures down 3 points, Dow futures down 22, NYMEX crude just under $56 a barrel. Gina Cervetti, Bloomberg Radio.
Hey y'all, Jeff Foxworthy here. Now, if you've ever found yourself repeating the same thing over and over for 75 years, you might be Smokey Bear.
Only you can prevent wildfires.
That's why I'm filling in for Smokey to switch things up, because there's a lot more to say. And I should know because my grandfather was a firefighter. And one of the things he taught me is that the people that love the outdoors the most are often the ones accidentally starting wildfires, which means always BYOB. No, bring your own bucket to the campfire. And be extra careful with things like burning yard trimmings. Don't just walk away, or chances are you might be starting a wildfire. So for the love of the outdoors, go to SmokeyBear.com to learn more about wildfire prevention. Brought to you by the U.S. Forest Service, your state forester, and the Ad Council.
Hemorrhoids. You talk to your GP, but you don't really get anywhere. Because the NHS has limited surgery for hemorrhoids, so you go on suffering in silence. Okay, maybe not so silent. It's time to speak to Xroid. They specialize in a new, fast, safe and effective procedure for hemorrhoids with no downtime. And the procedure takes just 30 minutes or less. Don't be one of the 8 million people in the UK suffering in almost silence. Get back to what you love doing. Xroid. Be kind to your behind. For free advice on hemorrhoids, text KIND to 81156.
This is a plug. A plug for the future. Inviting you to join the forward-thinking riders, skaters, and drivers who choose electricity to get around. Charging their bikes, boards, and cars using power from EDF Energy, the UK's largest producer of low-carbon electricity. So, do you like the sound of the electric future? Come and join us. Generation Electric. Everyone's welcome. EDF Energy.
Live big and spend less on the brands you adore. And dine by the waterside. Who could want more? Lap up the savings as much as the view with Ted Baker, Hackett, Nike, and Coach too. Lock Fine and Five Guys make it a date. You can shop, meet, and eat every weekday till late. So sit back, unwind, and let style lead the way. And give yourself a different day at Gunwharf Quays. Waterfront outlet shopping.
Did you know Currys PC World do business? Saving your business up to 30% with mega deals on computers and printers, electricals, large screen TVs, and even more. Top brands like HP, Microsoft, Epson, Sony. And if you find it cheaper from any major retailer, we'll match it. Get these deals before they're gone. Must end soon. Visit your nearest store or pcworldbusiness.co.uk/megadeals. T's and C's apply. Excludes Inc. and third-party sellers. Visit website for price promise details. Claim within 7 days.
At Argos, Big Red is on with products you'll want at prices you'll love. Save 20% on thousands of stylish indoor furniture products. Plus, we've got a range of large Hoover appliances, all for £249 or less. With Argos, you're good to go. Conditions apply. Subject to availability. Furniture offer ends the 3rd of September. Hoover offer ends the 27th of August.
Dad, I'm bored.
Why don't you help me water the garden?
Don't worry, this summer we've got loads of exciting activities to keep the kids entertained. How about you go explore the Rainham Marshes and play bushwalk bingo on the way?
Yay!
Look online for Asda Tour de Fun to find amazing walks here in London. From art trails to long distance. All powered by Sustrans, a registered UK charity. Go discover your fun side with Asda.
Live from the Bloomberg Interactive Broker Studio in New York. Bloomberg 1130 to Washington, D.C. Bloomberg 99.1 to Boston. Bloomberg 106.1 to San Francisco. Bloomberg 960 to the country. Sirius XM Channel 119 and around the globe. The Bloomberg Business app and BloombergRadio.com. This is Bloomberg Daybreak.
It's 5:30 on Wall Street. Good morning. I'm Nathan Hager.
And I'm Karen Moscow. We are just about 4 hours away from the opening of U.S. trading. Let's get you up to date in the news you need to know at this hour. Global stocks struggling for direction ahead of tomorrow's speech from Jerome Powell. U.S. futures are lower after minutes from the Federal Reserve showed division among policymakers. We get more from a Bloomberg FX strategist, David Finnerty.
If you look at the markets, they're still pricing in 2 rate cuts this year. And I think Powell's going to do a delicate path of being sort of neutral. I don't think it'll be overly dovish. I think he may signal 1 cut, but again, I think it's another insurance cut. I think he'll reiterate that at the moment he does not see a series of cuts. Based off that logic, then I think the markets have overpriced in too many cuts, so I think the yields will move higher off his speech.
And right now, the yield on 10-year treasuries at 1.57%.
And we'll have interviews from Jackson Hole with several regional Fed presidents. Today, we speak with Kansas City Fed Chief Esther George at 7:30 a.m. Wall Street time. Tomorrow morning, tune in for conversations with James Bullard, Robert Kaplan, Loretta Mester, and Patrick Harker.
The European Central Bank is also in focus today, with the ECB publishing the account of its latest policy meeting at 7:30 a.m. Wall Street time. Bloomberg's Caroline Hepker has more.
The notes from the last ECB meeting may give markets clues on 3 fronts. The size of a rate cut, which markets expect to be 10 basis points. Also, how much the central bank might spend every month on a new round of bond purchases after the Governing Council stressed the need for highly accommodative policy. And lastly, what Mario Draghi and policymakers may decide to buy in a relaunched QE programme, given the shortage of high-quality government bonds. In London, I'm Caroline Hepker, Bloomberg Daybreak.
Thanks, Caroline. We have somewhat encouraging PMI data out of Europe. Activity in the euro area's private sector unexpectedly picked up this month, though a meaningful rebound remains out of sight. Markets' composite PMI rose to 51.8, though orders in Germany fell the most in more than 6 years.
And coming up at 9:45 a.m. on Wall Street, we get a reading on U.S. manufacturing PMI. Economists forecast a reading of 50.5. Right now, S&P futures are lower, down 9 points. Dow futures down 71. NASDAQ futures down 38. The DAX in Germany's down 1/3%. CAC in Paris down about 0.6%. And the FTSE 100 down 0.7%. 10-year Treasury up 5/32, yield 1.57%. Yield on the 2-year 1.55%. NYMEX crude oil up 0.3% or 18 cents at $55.87 a barrel. And COMEX gold is down 0.5% or $7 to $15.0870 an ounce. The euro 1.1085 against the dollar. The British pound at 1.2138. And straight ahead, we have the latest world and national news. This is Bloomberg.
Thanks, Karen. It's 5:33 on Wall Street, and Michael Barr is here with more on what's going on around the world. Good morning, Michael.
Good morning, Nathan. President Trump commented on his back and forth with Denmark's prime minister concerning Greenland. On his way to Louisville, Kentucky, the president says that it was not a nice way of saying Greenland was not for sale.
I looked forward to going, but I thought that the prime minister's statement that it was absurd, it was an absurd idea, it was nasty. I thought it was an inappropriate statement. All she had to do is say, no, we wouldn't be interested.
Denmark Prime Minister Mette Frederiksen said, thankfully, the time where you buy and sell other countries and populations is over. This just in, South Korea says it will end a military intelligence sharing pact with Japan. Cutting the payroll tax is no longer on President Trump's list of possible actions to boost the economy. Trump said yesterday he was dropping that idea because, as he sees it, the U.S. already has a strong economy. Attorney General William Barr says he is completely confident Jeffrey Epstein took his own life. Bloomberg's Ed Baxter has the story.
This comes as he reorganizes management at the New York City jail. He says the investigation is moving forward, although it's complicated by witnesses wanting to be represented by the union, as well as reluctance to be questioned in general.
Epstein's death, I think we will see, was a suicide, and I do think that there are some irregularities at the center. But I have brought in Kathy Hawk Sawyer now to run the Bureau of Prisons.
And he says she is outstanding. In San Francisco, I'm Ed Baxter, Bloomberg Daybreak.
President Trump lashed out at automobile manufacturers who've pushed back on his administration's plan to weaken fuel efficiency requirements, dismissing them as politically correct. In a tweet, the president says, my proposal to the automobile companies would lower the average price of a car to consumers by more than $3,000. Motor vehicle deaths in the U.S. fell during the first 6 months of 2019. According to the National Safety Council, an estimated 18,580 people died in motor vehicle crashes during the first 6 months of 2019, down 3% compared to this time last year. Washington Governor Jay Inslee is dropping out of the race for the Democratic presidential nomination. Global News 24 hours a day, on air and at TikTok, on Twitter. Powered by more than 2,700 journalists and analysts in more than 120 countries. I'm Michael Barr. This is Bloomberg, Nathan.
All right, Michael, thanks. 5:35 on Wall Street. Time for the Bloomberg NBC Sports Update with Rob Bushka.
Good morning, Nathan. The Yankees out-hit the A's again, but it didn't matter as Oakland had a pair of two-run homers, ending Jay Happ's night early in a 6-4 win at the Coliseum. Happ lasted just 4 innings. New York has dropped 3 straight, and it cost them the best record in baseball, with L.A. walking off Toronto at Chavez Ravine. Masahiro Tanaka tries to right the ship against Tanner Roark at 9:30. New York enters play with a 9-game lead in the division over Tampa Bay, who beat Seattle. Mets have the longevity to stay in the wild card hunt for the rest of the year, testing their resolve with a 4-3 walk-off win over Cleveland in 10 innings. J.D. Davis, the hero. The bullpen did its part, said skipper Mickey Callaway.
That was the missing piece of the puzzle from the beginning. If you were really watching early in the season, we were doing the same things late in the game that we're doing now. Just our bullpen was struggling. And we knew, hey, if we can get our bullpen straightened out, we're going to win a lot of games, because we would have won a lot of games in the first half.
5 relievers allowed just 2 runs in 6 innings to keep New York a game and a half out of the wild card. They'll play for the sweep tonight when Noah Syndergaard takes the ball. NFL, Jets host the Saints on Saturday in Week 3 of the preseason. Running back Le'Veon Bell getting more comfortable with Sam Darnold under center.
He has all the intangibles. He has the size. He has the mindset. Because you can see him, he's a competitor. Like he doesn't want to come out here like every day in practice. He literally wants to get better. It's hard to, somebody that's like that, because I'm like that, so you got to love that about him, because he literally wants to be perfect.
Bell spent his career working with Big Ben in Pittsburgh and is back to work for the 2-0 Giants and rookie quarterback Daniel Jones when they visit Cincinnati tonight. And that's your NBC Bloomberg Sports Update. Nathan?
Okay, Rob, thanks. It's 5:37 on Wall Street, and the latest edition of Bloomberg Business Week is on newsstands now, with a cover on the protests in Hong Kong. Dan Tancade wrote the story for Bloomberg Business Week.
Hong Kongers are scared of what's going to happen, and Hong Kongers see a future where they're subject to the Communist Party, and they're fighting against it right now.
You can read more about this and other stories in this week's edition of Bloomberg Business Week. Know what matters and why? Visit businessweek.com or pick up a copy of the magazine on newsstands now and listen to Business Week with Carol Masser and Jason Kelly weekdays at 2 p.m. Wall Street time on Bloomberg Radio. It's 5:38 on Wall Street. Now it's time for the Tri-State Business Report. Good morning, Bloomberg's Ed Corey.
Morning, Nathan. New York Mayor Bill de Blasio has pledged to help out a Brooklyn pizzeria that closed over a tax dispute. The mayor calls DeFara the best pizza place in the city and says it has to be saved, but the mayor's been criticized on social media for moving to rescue a private business while failing to fix problems facing the city. Rockefeller Group has started construction on 10 Edison, a 900,000 square foot industrial project in Edison, New Jersey. The property will be developed as a speculative distribution center. It's supposed to complete it by August of 2020. The property used to be the site of an ExxonMobil research lab and synthetic oil facility. Well, it's sales tax-free week in Connecticut. Shoppers getting ready for the back-to-school season. Through Saturday, no tax will be applied to shoes or clothing priced at less than $100. The state expects shoppers to save nearly $5 million. That's your Bloomberg Tri-State Business Report. I'm Ed Corey. Nathan?
All right, Ed, thank you. It's 5:39 on Wall Street, and Bloomberg Radio is on the air from San Francisco to New York, London to Hong Kong. Let's check in with our global news team for some of the top stories heard on our 300 affiliate radio stations around the world.
I'm Steve Potisk, and on KYW in Philadelphia, we're looking at quarterly results from Dick's Sporting Goods.
I'm Courtney Donahoe on KFAB in Omaha. Farm tensions escalate as a USDA staffer is threatened in the Midwest.
I'm Roger Hearing on Bloomberg DAB Digital Radio in London. We're reporting on the 30-day target Angela Merkel gave Boris Johnson to sort out Brexit.
I'm Gina Cervetti, and on WCCO in Minneapolis, we're watching for earnings from Hormel Foods.
I'm Ed Corey on KFBK in Sacramento. I'm reporting the co-founder of Google's DeepMind has been placed on leave over concerns about some of the projects he led.
And those are some of the stories our 2,700 Bloomberg journalists and analysts are working on this morning around the world. After earnings from Target, Nordstrom, and L Brands beat estimates, we're on the lookout for another reading on retail today when The Gap reports its results. Here with a preview, Bloomberg's Jeff Bellinger.
Momentum at Gap was disappointing in the first quarter, and Bloomberg Intelligence says that may have improved in the second quarter. But forecasters think the only possible improvement in same-store sales is at the Old Navy chain. Negative numbers are likely from Gap and Banana Republic outlets. Jeff Bellinger, Bloomberg Daybreak.
All right, Jeff, thank you. Futures on Wall Street pointing to a lower open this morning. S&P futures down almost 9 points right now. Dow futures down 73 points. NASDAQ futures down 37 points. You're listening to Bloomberg Daybreak.
For the fifth time running, Commonwealth Financial Network is ranked number 1 by J.D. Power for highest in independent advisor satisfaction among financial investment firms. Placing first is nothing new at Commonwealth. In fact, we've been putting advisors like you first since we opened our doors in 1979, by being accountable to you and your clients alone. By making consistent investments to ensure that you have every possible tool, support, and competitive advantage, and by virtue of the fact that you can trust us to have your back through both good and challenging times. It all translates to the kind of experience that brings out the best in you and in us. To learn more about the partner that ranks you and your clients number 1 with everything we do, call Commonwealth at 866-462-3638 or visit Commonwealth.com. Member FINRA/SIPC, a registered investment advisor, broker-dealer. For J.D. Power 2018 award information, visit jdpower.com/awards.
Imagine
Imagine being denied an apartment because of your religion, or your race, or because you have children, or a disability.
It's so wrong.
Yes, but who has the power to stop this?
You do. Each of us has the power. The law is on your side. It's illegal for landlords to discriminate because of race, color, religion, sex, national origin, disability, or familial status. If you suspect that you have experienced housing discrimination, file a complaint with HUD immediately so we can investigate it. Fair housing is your right.
Use it.
To learn more, visit hud.gov/fairhousing. That's hud.gov/fairhousing. Or call 1-800-669-9777. 1-800-669-9777. A public service message from HUD in partnership with the National Fair Housing Alliance.
Hemorrhoids. You talk to your GP, but you don't really get anywhere because the NHS has limited surgery for hemorrhoids, so you go on suffering in silence. Okay, maybe not so silent. It's time to speak to Xroid. They specialise in a new, fast, safe and effective procedure for hemorrhoids with no time, and the procedure takes just 30 minutes or less. Don't be one of the 8 million people in the UK suffering in almost silence. Get back to what you love doing. Xroid. Be kind. You're behind. For free advice on hemorrhoids, text KIND to 81156.
This is a plug. A plug for the future. Inviting you to join the forward-thinking riders, skaters, and drivers who choose electricity to get around. Charging their bikes, boards, and cars using power from EDF Energy, the UK's largest producer of low-carbon electricity. So, do you like the sound of the electric future? Come and join us. Generation Electric. Everyone's welcome. EDF Energy.
Live big and spend less on the brands you adore. And dine by the waterside. Who could want more? Lap up the savings as much as the view with Ted Baker, Hackett, Nike, and Coach 2. Lock 5 guys, make it a date. You can shop, meet, and eat every weekday till late. So sit back. Unwind and let style lead the way and give yourself a different day at Gunwharf Quays, waterfront outlet shopping.
Did you know Currys PC World do business, saving your business up to 30% with mega deals? On computers and printers, electricals, large screen TVs, and even more. Top brands like HP, Microsoft, Epson, Sony. And if you find it cheaper from any major retailer, we'll match it. Get these deals before they're gone. Must end soon. Visit your nearest store or PCWorldBusiness.com. .co.uk/mega deals. T's and C's apply. Excludes Inc. and third-party sellers. Visit website for price promise details. Claim within 7 days.
24 hours a day, on air and at TikTok on Twitter. Powered by more than 2,000 journalists and analysts in over 120 countries. This is Bloomberg Radio. Now, global news update.
Hundreds of millions of dollars in federal student loan debt owed by tens of thousands of disabled military veterans will be erased under a directive President Trump signed yesterday.
The debt of these disabled veterans will be gone.
Trump ordered the Education Department to eliminate every penny of federal student loan debt owed by veterans permanently disabled. Democratic Congressman Andy Levin says President Trump is doing loyalties and harming rather than helping relations with Israel.
The president is at the center of a maelstrom of an increase in white supremacy and hate crimes in this country.
The head of the nonpartisan Congressional Budget Office is calling the fiscal outlook for the U.S. challenging. The CBO reports the federal deficit is expected to balloon to more than $1 trillion in the next fiscal year. I'm John Trout.
Finding Bloomberg surveillance.
I'm Jonathan Farrow. Join Lisa Abramowitz and me as the Fed's get-together in Jackson Hole begins and Bloomberg Radio catches up with Kansas City Fed President Esther George. Today at 7 a.m. Eastern on Bloomberg Radio. Bloomberg, the world is listening.
Markets, headlines, and breaking news 24 hours a day at Bloomberg.com, the Bloomberg Business app, and at TikTok on Twitter. This is a Bloomberg Business Flash.
And I'm Karen Moscow. U.S. stock index futures moving lower this morning. We check the markets every 15 minutes throughout the trading day on Bloomberg. S&P futures down 8 points. Dow futures down 69. NASDAQ futures down 35. The DAX in Germany's down 1/3%. 10-year Treasury up 5/30 seconds. Yield 1.57%. Yield on the 2-year 1.55%. NYMEX crude oil up 0.6% or 35 cents to $56.03 a barrel. COMEX gold down 0.5% or $8.10 to $15.0760 an ounce. The euro 1.1082 against the dollar. The British pound 1.2131 and the yen is at 106.36. A busy morning for